I just don't do I get those goosebumps every time you come around. Yeah. You don't mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I keep that line. You know that shit is so I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, you know that shit is
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC, the fully loaded transfer show. We are back, and yes, we now have Daz in the house. Apologies if we were just a few minutes late, some technical issues, but I think we're all sorted now and we're all mic'd up and ready to go.
testing, testing. One, two,
Hooray!
three. Yay! You can hear
There
me. God, I was blaming the lads, and it was me all along. I was just could hear. Richie sounded like a dinosaur there when I was talking to him first, and then Pete came on and he confirmed no, it was me. So my
Now,
fault.
Daz, I know I am the oldest on the crew now that Martin's left, but you do have to call us a dinosaur, mate, for fuck's sake.
I think you're only a couple of days older than me, Richie.
Brilliant stuff. But look, we're here. We're here to talk transfers. We're here to talk all things Newcastle United. And look, we've already got nearly 200 in the chat already. And so if you haven't already, housekeeping, click the likes, click subscribe if you're new to the channel. And Dad, how many likes tonight? What we going for?
Oh, let's make it easy. Let's make it 350. 350. That's a nice number.
Okay. We can surely get to that. We're approaching 200, if not already there in the chat. So let's click that. We're at 200 now. So click that. We should have 200 just in a second. And click that subscribe. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. And look, I'm going to go for a few names. We've got the likes of Danielle in the house. Stu, how you doing? We've got Dave. We've got N9 in the house. David Cook, as always. Lisa in the house, as always. Dominic saying, Les, great to see Les. Great to see you in the chat. Simon, PBA, Jan, and many more. The likes of Ian and Fenwick Pork Pie. Great name. Fenwick's Pork Pie. What a name. Love it. But yeah, you're all in there. You're all ready to talk all things Newcastle United. But of course, how are the boys? Richie, Daz, how are things other than technical issues?
You first, Richie. Age before beauty.
Blood, lads, just blood, as per usual.
Well, Pete,
all good.
I was okay. I was okay, and then I heard where Chris is. Chris is in our Indian restaurant in Newcastle. I love that Indian restaurant. Ronnie's. Yeah, it was lovely.
Couldn't get enough of it. Couldn't get enough of the first time. Fair play. Fair play. Great Indian, great food. I'm sure the age of the business is a great age of how long it's been going. Next to a great restaurant as well. In Uno's, just right next door. So yeah, can't complain. I'm sure he's having a great time with the family. But look, we're here to talk transfers. And look, wanted to start with a feel-good one. I think one of you boys put it in the chat earlier on today. Not Newcastle related in terms of coming in, but an ex-Newcastle player. It looks like Luton have got an agreement with Tim Krul and set to be finalised with the player very shortly. And look, boys, I'm sure you'll agree that he was a good servant for Newcastle, Tim Krul. And you always like to see that he's going to a good club and doing well. But Richie, I'll ask you on that. Tim Krul, still got that affection towards him as an ex-Newcastle player?
Yeah, he came up through the academy and stuff like that as well. It was someone that we talked about recently when we did the squad game as well. Is it someone that we would potentially consider taking as, like the homegrown academy players, as instead of Gillespie, or as a second choice keeper? And then obviously Karius gets promoted if Dubravka left. I thought it was the old romantic it is. I think would have liked to have seen that move, but obviously it's good to see him back in the Premier League. Obviously he had a bit of a bad injury towards the end of his career at Newcastle. Obviously that's why lost his international place and his Newcastle place, unfortunately. But it's nice to see him back in the Premier League, and means we'll get to see him twice this year when we face him. But hopefully it won't be too good a game for him every time he plays against Newcastle this season. We
hope not. Plenty of goals, certainly against Luton. Anything to say, Daz, to add on to what Richie said about Tim Krul before we move on?
Not much. Look, Tim Krul was a favourite. No, I'm sure Bruno that would love to see him lining up when we play Luton Town, right? Because he got a little chip over him when we played Norwich before. But yeah, no, welcome back, and yeah, see how he gets on.
Right. We're going to get into some more transfer leading information. Lots of talk about Newcastle United today, I have to say. And Mark Douglas kind of sets this one off in his piece in the iPaper. If you haven't read it, give it a read. Really interesting article. And it says Newcastle have shown Liverpool and Chelsea the way with transfers, and that they're not done this summer. And that kind of feeds in quite nicely in terms of where we're going to go next. But he talks about Newcastle kind of showing these top boys the way in which they're signing and in the way in which they're kind of conducting their business. And this, from the Chronicle, kind of like proves this. I don't want to get your opinions on this, boys, because look, as the Chronicle touched on here, record transfer for Moise Caicedo to Chelsea for 115 million. But as the Chronicle quite rightly said, combined Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes. Look, for me, there's no question on who I'd choose out of the two if I had the option. But boys, does that signify to you what Newcastle are doing right now in the window and what we've done this summer? Richard, I'll start with you.
100%. To be fair, you could even add Joe Linton in that picture. You're only 20 million more than Caicedo's value, full stop. And then you look at Enzo Fernandez to go along with that, and then they're looking to meet Lavia's clause as well, and now they're going for Olise and everything as well. It's just seriously. I saw a tweet. I can't remember who posted, but it was very, very tongue-in-cheek at Chelsea's recruitment today about being. It's nice to see that they're not paying over the odds for all this young talent that they're bringing through, and listed all the names that brought through. And then, but yeah, it's fantastic that our recruitment is the way it is, because we're not paying over the odds. Like a lot of, I think us on this panel, a lot of the people in our chat, we were pretty realistic with the the takeover went through. We didn't think we were going to be going to get Ian back. Yes, we all had a joke about it, but we weren't realistically thinking that was going to happen straight away. It was probably going to be 4, 5, 6 years down the line. And once obviously you build the project in motion, obviously we're ahead of schedule. There's a lot of players that probably in our squad now that we didn't expect to get, but the recruitment that we've done so far has been very, very clever, along with top quality coaching. And obviously the partnership between Eddie Howe and Dan Ashworth is key to that, because obviously he's telling them what he wants to make his team up. And Dan Ashworth is finding the right people through all the contacts he's got and his know-how of football to bring the right jigsaw pieces to complete the jigsaw puzzle. And so far, if you look, we only had 2 of our 3 main signings, well, 4 if you want to include Minter in that. We had 2 of our signings to our team on Saturday, and we blew Aston Villa away. There's no 2 ways about what we did. And then you look at the rest of the way the Premier League's played this weekend so far. Chelsea and Liverpool were horrendous in my opinion. I don't think it wasn't a very good game to watch at all. Man United were abysmal last night. Arsenal were, really? Yes, they won, but it wasn't really convincing in the end, was it? Yes, it looked like it was going to be at one stage, but it wasn't. Man City are Man City, full stop. And Newcastle, through good recruitment and fantastic coaching, are making the rest of the Premier League and a lot of pundits stand up and take notice. And obviously, another national newspaper commented today, the one that we don't really like to talk about on this channel because obviously one of our obviously loaded brothers, Chris, obviously for other reasons and stuff doesn't like it, but they decided to put an article out there today saying that they'll rue the day that Newcastle win the Premier League because of Saudi oil money. And it's, I think what they've got to do is, yes, there is the odd little comment in the article about fantastic coaching, like I've mentioned, but they still have to go and like slap you around the back of the head and say, yeah, but it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the oil money and this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 and bring up the regime. And look, we know that, and it would be nice to that the coaching side of it would be recognised a lot more, because if it wasn't for that, Newcastle, you could spend as much money as you want, like Chelsea did last year, like everything they've done over the last few years, and be a hell of a lot worse off. At the end of the day, it's the coaching that does it right, and if you get the right jigsaw pieces to the puzzle, you get what Newcastle are now, in my opinion.
Yeah, great points. Daz, I'm going to come to you with the same conversation, but I'm going to kind of change it slightly. In that, we've looked at that particular kind of transfer grouping with Sandro, Bruno, Moise Caicedo. Do you think, and anyone in the chat can have your opinion on this as well, do you think Newcastle will ever be that type of club that does what Chelsea did and going and spending 100 plus million on a player at any point in say the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, I could see us spending 100 million on a player, but not 100 million on 8 players or 10 players like they've done. Like, and even if you look at the way other teams are evolving, like Real Madrid, they still do what Real Madrid do. They also have their Galacticos. But PSG, they're getting rid of their Galacticos. They're getting rid of Messi. And Neymar's gone now. Mbappe is gone at the end of this season. And they're going through a different model, trying to bring in youth and try and bring in French players as well and build it up. Then Chelsea, I like Caicedo to me is only worth about 60 million. Like, it's just that the market is gone crazy, and the demand for midfielders in that kind of position. But to answer your question, Pete, yes, I can see us spending that money in time, but not. It's our model is going to be a bit different as well. It's to bring them in young, try and build them up, and even if we need to trade, we'll trade as well to get us on a stepping stone to be able to spend that outlay on, let's say, on one player to buy in the finished article to slot into around what we already have, we built up ourselves, but not going to the extremes that Chelsea have done. But Chelsea as well, their model is these 8-year contracts for all these. Now, they are buying young players, but it's 8-year contracts. And they're allowed to do that because they've sold a few as well. They've been able to offload a few that they didn't need. So let's allow them to trade in that fashion then.
No, there's a few people in the chat that kind of agreed with you, that they think we will spend 100 million at some point, but it might not be to the level of Chelsea. Yano said, I really hope so. And INNE has put a really good point on there as well. I won't take the chat off, but he's put, Ashraf said, if we're buying players for 100 million, we have failed. We want to make them not buy them, which is an interesting point, because he did actually say that right at the beginning. But saying that, we went and spent 60 million on Alexander Isak, so we're not too far away from that.
I think what you'll find, just to back up what Daz said, I think you'll probably find you might do it in the next couple of years, as long as we've got Champions League football. I think we could do it. But I think it's something we're trying to follow the model of what Man City have got, where you've got that talent coming through the academy, but if you do need to go out and buy the odd player, You're not obviously. I know they went out and bought Grealish, but that was really a one-off for Man City. Really, they haven't really spent that sort of money before. And I think that's possibly what we could do if the right players there. But you have to pay that money. We could do it, but obviously, I think you're probably realistic. We're probably going to be going around between the 40 and 70. I think that's the area where we're really going to target if we have to go for. But if we were to do it, I think it's probably going to be over the next 2 years. Because after that, you should have the academy up and running. You should have players coming in and getting developed from then. But I don't think it's going to be something where you're doing like Chelsea do it, as Dar said, every single transfer near enough, or one every year type thing.
And let's not forget, Liverpool, had they got Caicedo, would have done it back to back, 100 million euros plus with Darwin Núñez the previous summer, and then it would have been Moise Caicedo. However, obviously we know he chose Chelsea for his own reasons. So
can I ask you a question, please?
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's slightly off Newcastle topic, but how is the form now that where in one of the groups you're in, where the players that Liverpool keep going for keep getting snapped up by Chelsea, but now things have twisted it slightly, and now Maguire isn't going to West Ham either. So is there any bitterness, I wonder?
I'm not gonna lie. I've just had a quick look at the chat because I've not seen it for a while. I'm not gonna lie. The Race for Europe chat is off the chain the last few days. I swear it's been comical, and we're on tonight at 10 o'clock, so I'm expecting fireworks. I'm expecting fireworks now. That Errol has been in hiding the last 24 hours. I'm not gonna lie. Liverpool, with everything that's been going on, is in hiding, and we've been doing our best to remind them of the fact that they're not getting these deals done. So Dan Lawless. He's actually in good spirits. We'll probably find out for sure tonight, but he's in good spirits with the Maguire situation, whereas Dan, Man United fan, is not. He wanted him out the door. So it's been interesting to say the least in that chat, and it should be a good one tonight for sure. I think that chat's only going to heat up when the transfer window gets towards the end, because I don't think any one of those clubs are done. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Just to move us on to the next point, and I did have it somewhere. I don't know if I saved it. I apologize if I didn't, but I did. Ryan N. I'm just going to steal the chat just for a second.
Yeah, no bother.
Ryan N. said, "How many more signings do you think we will make?" That is the big question right now across all of Newcastle United fan base. Some have got opinions in different directions. I want everyone in the chat to put yours in. How many are we signing between now and the end of the transfer window? Richie, how many, in your opinion, are we honestly going to sign between now and then?
Two.
Okay.
I think there'll be one permanent and one loan.
One perm, one loan. Daz, what are you going for?
I'll stick with what I said about a week and a half ago. I said one and a surprise. Now Eddie has confirmed that he's looking for one, but Eddie he won't confirm anything else after that. But I think we might get a surprise. Whether that be a loan related surprise, I don't know, but yeah, we won't be expected, and neither will Keith Downey. So
there we go.
We'll see.
If Eddie says we're getting one, expect three. That's what I say. Expect three. You know what he's like. He does it all the same. So many putting comments and questions in. Nikolai G. Not seen in the chat before. Nikolai G. Great. Welcome to the channel. He's put two. Dominic's put two more signings, both loans to buy. Interesting. Jordy Mick says same as Richie, one loan and one buy. We've got Chris, three right centre back. I thought we put three right centre backs there. I was thinking, Chris put three.
We're coming Chelsea all of a sudden there, Pete.
Yeah, 8-year contract, 150 million each.
We don't want that at all. Three he's going for. One right centre back, one left back, and maybe a right winger number 10. Interesting. Yano's gone one permanent, zero loan. So many more. David's put one bought, one loan. Loads of different opinions. It's going to be interesting. I don't know how many we're going to sign, but I think we're going to go for more than one. Whether we get them or not is a different thing, but I do think that we will attempt to sign more than one. So whether we get a right centre back, and we go for a left back and we don't get it, or vice versa, I don't know. But it's going to be an interesting one, and that brings me nicely to, and I'm kind of going to split this up into two sections here. We'll start with the left back section, and we'll kind of like put the players that have been talked about in position, and then we can kind of talk about them individually, because there are a number of players in both sections to talk about. So the ones that are hot topic right now, first and foremost, are Cucurella at Chelsea, his Chelsea teammate Lewis Hall, and the Arsenal left back Kieran Tierney. So they're the three that have kind of stood out right now in terms of left back situation. Now, we'll start with Cucurella first. Now, it was reported way back earlier on in the summer. We talked about it in the Full Loaded Transfer Show way back that he was of interest of Newcastle, and that there had been conversations going on there. What I want to know from you boys is that is he, like every other player aside now, is he a player that you would like at Newcastle United? If we signed him, loan or permanent, would you be happy with that signing at Newcastle United? Daz, I'll start with you.
Well, first of all, my answer, I have my favourite of those three, but it really only matters what Eddie Howe wants. But would I be happy with Cucurella? Yeah, I would. His wages, I'm sure, would be a problem though. He's gone to. He was very good at Brighton. He didn't work out for him at Chelsea. A fresh start might be just what he needs. But he would be, of the options, he'd probably be between second or third. I can't make my mind up. I'd put him third in my list.
Okay, interesting. Richie?
I'll just mirror what I said. Out of the three, Cucurella's third on the list. Simple. I just think he's been abysmal since he went to Chelsea. I think, and obviously his wages are going to be huge as well. I'd rather stick with Dan Burn as our full choice left back and get Cucurella in. Okay,
fair points. A few people have said as well, Cucurella third in the choice. N9 has put Cucurella would be last pick for me. Would rather have Hincapié. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I know who you're on about. There's a couple of other comments in there about Cucurella. No. Says someone in the chat. It's just gone up really quickly because you're all putting so many great comments up. They're moving too quickly. I can't keep hold of them, and it gives me a great
behind timing a bit. That's doing me best.
They're moving so quickly, and we can't keep up with them. But that's because we've got 390 in the chat, and if you haven't clicked like or subscribe, make sure you do. I thought I'd plug that in as we're going along. Right, one thing that. Because the Geordies Out South boys, like Emeka in particular, one of the Leicester boys, I grew up with him, mad Newcastle fan, been to loads of games with him. He is adamant Cucurella is shit. He ain't having it. He don't want him, right? And like, I'll be honest with you. I'll put this out there. I wasn't against getting Cucurella earlier on in the summer. Until I watched him in the summer series against Newcastle. He was dog shit. And I'm not even going to lie. And at that point, I was a bit like, I'm not quite sure. But does he have some qualities? I don't want to stomp him into the ground. Are there good qualities?
Well, he's got a good head of hair.
Yeah.
I mean, football, man.
He was really good at Brighton. And we know that if Eddie really wanted him, and because he can turn him around, he can bring him back to the form he was in at Brighton. So that's what he's got going for him. He could be Howd, but nah, he's still third on the list for me.
Any positives there other than the head of hair, Richie?
No.
Fair enough. No, I mean, look, Someone else made a point in the Jordan Down South chat that I think it is worth saying is that the season before he went to Chelsea, he was nominated Player of the Year at Brighton. He was like nominated their best player. So I do, although I've watched him recently and he's been horrific at Chelsea, he really has been bad. And there's a clear reason they want rid of him. I almost feel like maybe a new environment could get the best out of him. But yeah, I mean, you don't get given Player of the Year at a team like Brighton, who was sensational that season under Potter's last year. Like, if you're not a good player, but I don't know. But go on, Daz.
The other thing is that everything that goes from Brighton to Chelsea turns to shit. It's like that M&M ad. And there you go, Casado.
There you go. Let's wait and see. But that was good career talk with regards to him. Clearly, there's lots of people in the chat and the boys on the panel that are not quite keen on him. However, we have another option here. Kieran Tierney, linked with Newcastle again for a long while now. Since before the season ended, he was linked with Newcastle. Early talks are he wanted to go back up north. He wasn't comfortable in London. Other talks were he wasn't getting regular football. All this kind of talk going on with Tierney. Interestingly, today, Keith Downey on Sky, just a couple of hours ago, I'd put in Football Daily, had put a little video on. Newcastle and Arsenal are in contact over the transfer of Kieran Tierney. The Gunners want a permanent sale instead of a loan, which is what Newcastle want. So we want the loan with possibly a view to buy. They want a straight sell. Now, knowing all of that and what we've already talked about with Kieran Tierney, we did a little short on it earlier on in the summer. If you haven't watched that, go back and give that a watch on the channel. Kieran Tierney. Richie, I'll come to you first. Where does he fit in your list? Well, okay, maybe not. Don't tell us where he fits in your list just yet. You in the chat, you can do that. Not yet, because I want to get your opinion first and second in a second. But Kieran Tierney, tell us about him, in your opinion.
Well, when he's been playing for Arsenal, I think he's done all right. We've always said when we've done, we've talked about over recent weeks and months, one of the main concerns has been his appearances for Arsenal, and the fact that that's the main issue, and that's probably one of the reasons why Arsenal want rid of him, because obviously hasn't been available for them. So if they can get any sort of money for him and move him on, then great. I can't imagine Arsenal really want to do business with Newcastle. However, if they're wanting to bring somebody else in, they may need to sell. And really, you look at what sellable assets they have got. They could have sold Reece Nelson. We discussed him at the start of the summer, but they signed him to a new contract. They could have probably picked up some decent money for Reece Nelson, but they didn't. And they could have done the same with Nketiah, I think, because he had a year left in his contract as well. So realistically, you look along that team, the first team. I think you've got El Neni, who's struggling to make the team now, but I don't think he would get a big figure. So perhaps this is one of the reasons why they're looking to potentially sell to Newcastle. And obviously, as they said, they want to sell him. They don't really want to loan, which is obviously Newcastle's preference. I think if we had to go down that route, and we commented on this before, the only reason you take him is a loan with an option or obligation to buy, preferably an option to buy after the season, to see where he is fitness-wise, how he's done while he's been here. Because we're still at that stage in the project now where we can't really be paying, 30 million, if that's what they're possibly 35 million, if that's what they're looking for him, and for someone who's going to be on the bench all the time, because we haven't got that squad depth. Yes, okay, we would still have Dan Burn, would still have Matt Target. But then again, we've been told that we need to get creative. So if you bring Tierney in on a loan, you sell Matt Target, you might get 10 to 15 million back from what you might get what you paid for him. That goes straight into the pot for FFP. It's that aspect which they mentioned earlier on, that if we want to do any more transfers, we've got to be creative. This is the creativeness. If you bring someone in on a loan, covers that spot. You sell Target, brings 15 million, and that 15 million You know, that it's, as we discussed, I think you discussed the show the other night, Pete, and we've discussed it before. You were writing what you thought about the FFP, that whatever we get as transfers literally goes straight in onto the account. Whenever obviously we pay transfers, that's split over the duration of the contract. But, and obviously this is something you've got to clear up, it's over 5 years. So even though that obviously there's been a few people have mentioned this in the chat and started the questions regards Chelsea putting over 8 million, 8 seasons, 9-year contracts and stuff like that, UEFA still, and the Premier League, you have to have that over. So if they've spent 115 million on Caicedo, that still has to be carried over 5 years. Yes, the contract's 8 years or 9 years with the extra option, but for FFP purposes, they can only carry over a maximum of 5 years. So if technically we could bring in someone for, let's have a thing, 15 million, 3 million, you could probably buy 3 million over. You've got quite a few players you could buy, really. You could technically go out and buy £175 million player and carry it over. That 15 million that you've just brought in for the sale of Target for one person over FFP over 5 years. So that's how you can get creative. While on the creative aspect, obviously, because we'll talk about the loan there, the other thing you could do, and someone mentioned it, why have Newcastle not got a training shirt sponsor? This is all the aspects of the creativeness that they're saying that will bring extra funds into the club that can help towards bringing somebody else in. So that was just a touch on that, because obviously we're relevant in that. But I think with him, it's a loan or an obligation option, really. I think that's where you have to stand with Tini. Good player. It's an upgrade on what we've got in that department. I think it would be good for Bird and Tini to compete for that spot. And the good thing on that is not one of them is nailed down to be his first choice either.
No, and I think that's the big thing. Daz will come to is that nobody, that as Rich said, Burn or Target, none of them are dead certs to kind of start every game. Like Burn is at the moment because he was part of that last season, but in your opinion, and I'll add to this actually, because I think it might have been Keith Downey or Craig Hope that mentioned that actually Arsenal want 25 million for him, which is cheaper than I thought it would be. But still, it's still something that Newcastle can't do without being creative, as Richie said, and Darren Eales and the rest of them have talked about. Is Kieran Tierney someone that you would want in the team? And what is it about him that you think he could bring that's different to Burn or Target?
Right, yeah, he's well. Target is an actual left back, but he's a better option. First of all, in the left back spot, I think Eddie Howe would want him because I've heard or read somewhere before that he looked at him when he was at Celtic and he was manager of Bournemouth. I think for me, he's a bit of a gamble. Just with his record, yeah, would I want him with only as a loan with the option to buy, and I can't see Arsenal going with that. Not loan with the obligation to buy, because I think that's too much of a gamble. And as Richie said, we can't afford to be taking these gambles with the financial situation we're in at the present with regards to FFP. So loan with the option to buy. Yes, I would take him if Eddie Howe wants him, and he's his first choice. And the other option that we haven't talked about yet has already signed a 6-year contract or something like that. Yeah, so he's. I know I'm not allowed to say what ranking he is, but I think it's obvious. He's number 2 and on of those 3.
No, fair play. Fair play. RG Fox, welcome to the channel. He's put on there. Hello, folks. First time here. Welcome to the channel. Hope you subscribed and look. Keep an eye out for many more shows that are coming in for you to get involved in. Lots of different opinions on here. Some are saying, yep, he's a good option. Some are saying, he's much better option than Target. And Burn, as what you boys have said. Interestingly, Jordy 2 for Life has said, because a number of people have referred to, his injuries. I think it might have been Leeson or someone else said, is he going to pass? Is he going to pass a medical? And that's the big question. But Jordan Falaf's made an interesting point. He's checked in his injury records. It's not what people think. It's just lazy comments, in his opinion. And it's interesting
hang on.
to see. Go
Well, do you, maybe you have the screenshot, but I've seen a screenshot going around with a list of the injuries he's had over the last number of years. So there is some evidence to back that up. I think I haven't paid an awful lot of attention to it, but
do you know what? I think if you want to play devil's advocate again, like we always like to do, you could look at the Callum Wilson situation. He's been injury prone since he's been at Newcastle. And when he was at Bournemouth, had some serious injuries, had some muscle injuries and stuff like that. But with him having competition now, he's able to get his body sorted, and he's playing a lot more regular. And you see in the Callum Wilson that the Premier League rivals hate at the minute. It could be the fact that he's had this time out. His body's been able to heal a lot better, because he hasn't had the strain of playing football on a week-to-week basis. So you've got that to take into consideration as well. And the fact, if you've got someone like Dan Burn, who obviously with having the load of all 4 competitions, he's not going to play every single week. If he was to come in and be on number 1 and be the guy going forward, then perhaps it would be a struggle again to be that person. And that's where that's probably why we're not seeing him with possibly number 1 so far, what we've said. I think that's probably why. I think if he does come in, I think we'd all give him a chance. And obviously, touch wood, he doesn't turn around and get an injury straight away. But obviously, as long as he plays and it's an improvement in that area, it's what I think that's one of the reasons why we're saying we're not ruling that potential transfer out. And if it was to happen, we'd be okay with it.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that, I think this is maybe what Jordan Sinfar's talking about, is that Kieran Tierney, I don't believe, was injured at any point last season. He actually wasn't injured. I think this is that was the first season in which he wasn't injured at all, or he had maybe a minor one, but for the majority of that season, if not all of it, he was fit. However, he only started 6 Premier League games. And is that maybe the reason why? Because he's coming off the bench and playing here and there rather than actually starting. And this goes back to the question. And the question for everyone in the chat, for you boys, is do we want a player like that? You made a really good point, Richie, and you talked about Callum Wilson. Do we want to be signing players that have got a similar situation to Callum Wilson? Because I'll throw that out there, is that I love Callum Wilson. I think he's fantastic. And you know what? Like he's embraced the sub role and actually made it his own. He's scoring goals. He's been as lethal as ever in that position. But would Newcastle United, in their current state, have signed Callum Wilson knowing the injury problems that he had? The answer, Daz, you're shaking head. The answer is probably no. And it's if we're going for our first choice left back, is that the signing? This is the question in my head. Is that the signing that we're looking for with a person that has the ability to be the first choice, but has so much baggage around him in terms of that? You look at Sandro Tonali, plays nearly enough every game, he's fit as a fiddle. Kieran Trippier, exactly the same. Alexander Isak had 1 or 2 injury problems, but in general plays a lot of games over the course of the season. Harvey Barnes, the same. It just, I don't know.
Pete, I agree. I agree with you, because like if you imagine Dan Ashford and the whole team, the whole scouting network and the owners coming together, and they're looking at all the potentials they could have, and they'd have a little quadrant and have those 3 names in there. Tierney's in a different bracket to Cucurella, and Hall is definitely in a different bracket again, with like age as well as that, and it's not going to have as many injuries picked up throughout his career so far, because he's only really starting off. So and the ceiling is higher as well.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I want to do is you talk about Callum Wilson there, Pete, right? 2 examples of Callum Wilson last season, right? He was injured before the World Cup. He made all to get fit for the World Cup. And then he came back and he was pretty much, he couldn't hit a barn door, could he? If you were trying to sell Callum Wilson in January, would you have had many takers for him? Probably realistically, you might have had some lower-end Premier League teams, top-end Championship. go on 6 months, you're in the summer window now, and you saw how Callum Wilson played, proved his fitness, didn't miss a game, he was available for every single game. What was it, 11 goals in April alone he scored, finished off on 18. How many Premier League teams would take him now?
I would say probably everyone, bar maybe the top 6.
Well, Chelsea would take him if Liverpool put in that were interested. That's for sure.
I think it just proves if you can prove your fitness and your ability, then you know how things can change. I think the problem is it the fact that with Tierney, he hasn't been playing. When he was playing, he was in and out of the team. So people have sort of forgot about, and all they're actually relying on now, as Joy Toonverlife said, is it literally that he's injury prone because he hasn't been playing. So it's not the fact that he's not a good player. Is it that everyone the last thought of them is because he's missed it? If he'd been playing the last 6 months of last season, and we're having this conversation, we'd probably be either a yes or a no, and it would be a definite yes or no because you'd have known how he's played for the last 6 months and what you'd be getting at this moment in time. It's the reason why there's so much hoo-ha about it is because we don't know what we're getting at this moment in time. We can comment on his good bits, his bad bits, but we don't know.
No, it's an absolute a fair point to bring up. And look, they're just the thoughts that go through my head. Now, I speak to Pops all the time about Kieran Tierney. He doesn't want him to leave. He doesn't want him to leave. He wants him to stay at Arsenal. He loves him. He actually prefers him to Zinchenko at left back. So, although we talk about the injuries and stuff, and I wanted to bring that injuries up because it is a massive talking point, it is. But actually, on the flip side of that, when you've got Arsenal fans that actually don't want him to leave, it kind of makes you think, should we have him? They don't want him to leave. Because this is what we're
games.
If we're going to take, no, I don't even think it's mind games, Daz. I honestly, the conversations that you have with some of the Arsenal fans, they really love him. Yeah. They really like him. They can't believe he's on the bench. They're angry that if 55, 60 minutes in, he's not starting, coming off the bench, and he's not having an impact on the game. And it almost makes me think, if they're so desperate to keep him, should we not be taking him? And it's like this is what we need to be doing as a club, in my opinion, is taking those players that those big clubs don't want to let go. That's the sign that we're going places. So it kind of there's opinions like for and against, and loads of people in the chat made some great points, and we've made some points either side of that kind of facilitate that conversation. But
Pete, we're going to be asking you to name your 3 in order as well after we go to the last one.
I'm just asking the question.
No, you're not sitting on the fence. No.
He's just dodging the bullet.
I'll just throw it out there. I'll just throw these things out there and just see where they land. But look. I will say 430 plus in the chat. Amazing support on this Tuesday night for us loaded boys. Make sure you get those likes. That's his target. 350 should be smashed by now. Like, really,
what are you doing?
350 likes. It should be smashed by now. Everyone get on it.
Make a fool out of me and hit the 350. Go on. I dare you. Bring it on.
No, he's encouraging you, saying, "Come on." But no,
or is it mind games? Is it mind games, Pete?
There you go. And the one thing I'll say is that it's great to see 1 or 2 new faces in the chat that are saying first-time watchers or coming in and getting involved. This is what we love about this channel. We've got a fantastic community, so many people with great opinions and points in these conversations. And it's great to add new viewers and subs to that. So welcome everyone that's new to the channel tonight. Now, of course, spent a little bit longer than I anticipated on those 2, but they're really good conversations, so it needs to be done. The third one in that link is Lewis Hall. Now, Lewis Hall, 18-year-old left back at Chelsea. We've known about this and been linked. We talked to Ollie Hawkins about this previously earlier on in the summer with regards to Lewis Hall, who wrote a number of articles on him at the NUFC blog. But it kind of ramped up again, and now kind of go through the kind of the chain in which it kind of took place. So Crystal Palace Transfers HQ kind of reported this from Alan Nixon, who reports for a newspaper, a national newspaper, and he said Newcastle lined up a shock bid to sign Chelsea's Lewis Hall in a surprise 30 million raid. He's also said Hall has been talking about a new contract and was due to sign and then go out on loan, but now Newcastle's interest has moved the goalpost. Chelsea didn't plan to lose Hall, but the right offer may change their mind and balance their books after a crazy summer. So they've talked about it again, match day. Crystal Palace have talked about that too. There's also reports in there. So Ollie Hawkins has wrote that we're now launching that bid. Craig Hope then jumped on that and said that Newcastle are exploring the bid for Lewis Hall, but are limited in terms of the spend and being creative, as we know Darren Mills has talked about. Scott Wilson today has also talked about that we're investigating a deal for Lewis Hall, but there's an acceptance that FFP requirements means that it won't be easy to pull off. Now, the one thing that's going through everybody's mind is, has Lewis Hall signed the contract? Now, something I put in the chat to you boys yesterday, Nizar Kinsella, who works for the Evening Standard in London and reports on a lot of London-based teams, said on Friday, I believe it was either Thursday or Friday, that Lewis Hall had signed a 6-year deal. That still is yet to be confirmed by the club. And the reports of the goalpost being moved may mean that that deal might not necessarily be there. We're speculating right now, I'm not sure. But Lewis Hall, from the links that we've had with him, what do you make of the potential of signing someone of his ability? I don't know. I started it last time, so I don't need to go to Richie. I'll go to you first. Lewis Hall, what are your opinions of him as a potential target?
I think I obviously didn't watch much of Chelsea last year, but I did watch. I was at the Chelsea home game, and obviously watched last game of the season at Stamford Bridge. And I've got to say, I think on both of those occasions, he was probably one of their better players. Obviously, as I said, I can't comment on the rest of the season. He looked good in those 2 games. He's obviously, I know his supporting cast last year was abysmal for Chelsea, full stop, last year. So, the one thing that obviously we've talked about in our private chat is the fact that he's a great age for a start.
He's a great age.
His family, obviously Newcastle fans.
The 2-second rule's still in there. I forgot about that. He's chatting away. It's already come up and been and gone.
I haven't even seen any yet. I've just said Mike's on mute. That's all I got. But anyway, no. Obviously, his family are all Newcastle fans, and he's grown up as a supporter as well. So you start to think, did he try and give 110% in those games because he wanted to leave an impression on, the team he loves as well. He grew up supporting as a kid as well. But I think what we have seen of him, I think he's got so much potential, and I think that's the key word when we look at the Lewis Hall deal. It's the potential, and the fact he can play anywhere on the left hand side, not just a fullback. He is actually more of a midfielder who's got moved back into defence. So, as we know, Eddie Howe likes versatility. He doesn't like people pitching into one position. So the fact that he can play up and down that whole flank sort of mirrors like what Livermento's done on the right. He can pretty much play anywhere on that right hand side, but also can play left back. So it gives so many different options. I think, as we discussed, I think that I'll still stand by this. Obviously, me and Pete had a bit of a debate in our WhatsApp last day about the price of it. I don't think. I think 30 million is too much. Literally, because
it's only gone one way. Within seconds, you were moving the goalpost.
You were doing a Chelsea, Richie.
I finished up with 25 million tops, and that was including add-ons. I think 20 million. I think 20 million is probably a fair price, realistically. And I think the reason why I'd be concerned paying 30 million is because of how much Premier League experience he's got at the minute. You look at Livermento, obviously. He came through the same academy as Lewis Hall, So obviously you know that the train and how they've been brought to play football is there. You don't need to worry about that. Obviously, he then went off and played for Southampton for a full year, and he would have had another full year if he hadn't been for that nasty injury. So obviously now he's back and stuff. So we've seen more of Livramento, if that makes sense. I think with Lewis Hall, he's a little bit more raw than what Livramento is. Like, so that's the only reason why I wouldn't be paying the figure that's being quoted. It's obviously it's near the Livramento, but to be fair, if you bring those two in, that's your fullbacks going forward for years. And if you look at all the people that we're bringing in, this is a team that can mould and gel together and be together for 5, 6, 7 years. Do you know what I mean? It's if you saw on Saturday how well this team's played together already. If we can keep the core of this team going forward, because obviously everyone that's coming in, really, obviously since apart from say the first transfer window, everybody realistically coming in afterwards has been a great age. Go on, Dad, put it out. I'll just be quiet for a few minutes.
He's a great age.
I don't even know if you pressed it or not.
It didn't affect you this time. Look, it did.
There you
go.
But no, in all seriousness, everyone since that summer window, everyone's come in has been like a great age. So this team's going to stay together for such a long time. And you know, because of how good and how far we're going now, it's going to take a lot to prize some of these players away. I think obviously there's been a lot of talk about people putting in bids in for Bruno and stuff like that. And will that happen? I don't know. You never know. But at the end of the day, what we are going to end up selling someone we don't want to sell at some point. That comes as part and parcel of it. There's talk of you wouldn't have when Laporte signed for Man City, you wouldn't have thought that they would probably ever sell him for a while, but obviously there's talk he could be available this window. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's going to happen. There's always going to be someone of a very, very high caliber at some point going to be moving on, and we're going to have to get used to that at some point. But hopefully, if we keep the majority of this team that's getting brought together now, this team can stay together for a long, long time. And if you see what happened on Saturday, they can dominate for a while as well.
Definitely. Go on, Daz. Fire away.
Yeah, no, we're really going to say that Richie really nailed it there. You know, the points that he made there, and I can only reiterate that because watching on the Dennis Wise YouTube clips, Hall looks absolutely class, and he's more of a wing back, or as Richie said, he can kind of play in midfield as well. But so it's the versatility. He can play in a number of positions. But when you're watching, you can just imagine Livramento and Hall on our being our right and left back and wing backs of the future, and it is frightening to think of that. So that's what, when I saw him play, I just thought that's it. That's the missing piece there that for us. Forget about all the rest. Forget about Tierney. Forget about Cucurella. He's the one. I didn't think I'd say this, but Hall is the chosen one. So I hope Eddie. I hope that contract isn't signed, the 6-year contract, and that we can swoop in there and get it done. And with him being a Newcastle fan as well, look at Murphy. What Murphy's done, we wanted rid of him so many times, but he's excelled under Eddie Howe, and that the love he has for Newcastle. I'm sure Hall would be the same. So it's to me it's one that's kind of. If it can happen, it's very exciting for us.
Yeah.
Just to clarify on his contract a little bit, I'm on transfer market at the moment. Apparently, his contract he's got at the moment runs out in 2026, so potentially he hasn't signed that new contract as yet.
It hasn't been confirmed. You go through Chelsea Twitter, you go through any Chelsea sites. I've spoken to a couple of lads that support Chelsea. Nothing's been confirmed yet. Whether we agreed to it or not, and it hasn't been officially signed, could well be the reason. So that things have progressed the way it was. There was talk that that Palace moved the goalpost in that they wanted Trevor Chalobah instead on loan, and they can only have one player from one club at a time. So they wanted Trevor Chalobah as centre-back loan rather than Lewis Hall. Because let's face it, the only way Lewis Hall comes in and starts is if Tariq Mitchell leaves. Tariq Mitchell's an England international. You don't just displace him easily. And Lewis Hall might be thinking, well, if I'm going to be fighting for my place to get in and be first choice, why not do that at a club permanently in Newcastle? Like, where you're playing in the Champions League, you're playing on 4 fronts, and you're more likely to play more football. Being honest, that's just the reality. But for me, what Richie talked about, Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall, and this is the thing that I was kind of talking about in the summer when Tino Livramento was linked, is that they're looking to build for the future. You said 5 or 6 years, Richie. I'd throw 10 years at that. They're your fullbacks for the next 10 years, and not just for Newcastle, but for England. They take the nation, the country forward potentially with how good they are. Now, lots of people have talked about, is he a Newcastle fan? Blah blah blah. Apparently, his parents are Newcastle fans. His older brother, who plays professional football, is a Newcastle fan as well. I haven't been confirmed whether he's a Newcastle fan or not, but I think if they're all Newcastle fans and Newcastle are interested, no doubt there's some influence there.
When he's holding up the jersey, he'll be a Newcastle fan.
There you go, moving north. But who's to say that he's not? We don't know the situation. And we talked about fees. Now, Richie was moving up to my valuations very, very quickly. He'll be with me within days with regards to what we should pay to get him.
As I said last night, Daz had a whole season to try and get a 0.5 out of us during the ratings, and it never happened. It's not going to happen, mate. I've told you 25 million is where I'm at, but there you go.
I'd go higher.
Richie said 25 million plus add-ons. So I
said 20. I said 20 plus 5 add-ons, 25 tops.
I don't know if it read that on the.
You must have had a few last night, did you?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I just it was a quick skim. I took it as 25 plus add-ons. So
no, 25 including add-ons.
Okay, so we'll do the 20 plus 10 add-ons then, and that makes it to 30 anyway. So therefore, he's on my level in terms of the valuation. As you said, you pay more.
What did we pay for Tino Livramento again? I can't remember now.
32 million. 32 million initial fee. And I think it rises to like 36, as Sky said.
Yeah, I thought it was 31 to 36. Yeah.
I think up to 30 is okay for him, just because of the potential. And look at if it didn't work out, as a left back, he can play midfield anyway. But we can all. He's so young, you'll sell him on again, and you recoup some of that money back. But I think it's a one for the future, and he'll double his value in time.
Definitely. For me, Lewis Hall, 100%. He's the guy that I would want out of the 3. I would, being 18 years old, he would play enough football if he signed right now to ensure that he was kind of a homegrown. Now, if we're playing European football on a regular basis, that's crucial, absolutely crucial. So he would be basically a homegrown player for us rather than anybody else. So that's a really important part to think about as well. For me, I think 30 million is a steal like Livramento, because I think their ability will mean that in a few years' time they could be potentially worth double. But look, that conversation could run on all day. What we'll ask of you, boys, is give me your top 3. Who ranks 1, 2, and 3 from those 3 left backs that we've talked about?
I think one of us could just say it, and the rest of us could just go like that, couldn't we?
Yeah, I could say it now.
I think it would, from 3 to 1. It's going to be Kukurea, then you're going to go on to Tierney. Then it would be Lewis Hall as number 1.
All agree?
Yes, all in.
Spin plates.
Put it in the chat.
A bit in.
Let us know if you think anything different to us with regards to that. There are left backs that we're currently linked with. And look, that conversation may well continue in the weeks and days and weeks ahead.
Super chat received.
First of all, super chat, perfectly timed. Massive thanks to Ian. In Culver,
Cheers, Ian.
Super chat says Tino is the Trips replacement, but Hall is definitely a great option for the future. In Eddie, we trust.
100%.
As well, and we have to say a massive thank you to Tampa Toon, who everyone in the chat has quite nicely talked about, and this has put that in the comments as well, gifting memberships to people in the chat tonight. Tampa Toon are always super generous, whether it's a super chat, whether it's a donation from the vouchers that we've had as part of our sort of our full transfer show series over the summer, and obviously memberships. It is absolutely amazing. Thank you for your continued support of the channel.
Thanks, Tampa Toon.
Pete, before we move away from the left back chat, there was, I don't know whether you actually caught this morning from our very good friend Sean Casey, but I don't know if you might have had it uploaded into the chat. I don't know. But there was a rumour this morning going around, and Paul Spraggs mentioned him here, so I thought I'd highlight while we're on the left back situation, and that is about Juan Miranda. He's available. He's got a release clause, and he's for about, I think it's €9 million. Now, bear in mind, he was in the European Under-21 Championships for Spain. He was on fire during that tournament, scored 2 goals from left back as well. 23 years of age as well. So, would either of you take him? Yeah, great age. Go on, play it. I'll hear it in about tomorrow.
I'm going to give my opinion really quickly because my little boy's just woken up and the missus is out, so I've got to do daddy duties for just a second. But providing that fee is correct, and providing that we couldn't get our main target, which is, in my opinion, I think Lewis Hall, if we can't go all out for him, I would definitely consider him being an option. That's just my opinion on it. I don't know too much about him. I've seen little bits. I don't know loads about him. But look, if that's the option they want to go for, and they want to build and develop a left back, which for me is key. We want to develop a left back for the future. I would definitely consider it. But I'll be back in 2 seconds. So you guys discuss.
So for me, Richie, as you know, I had 4 years ago when I was playing Football Manager. He's one of the names I have on my team, along with half the other players who've been linked to this summer, which is freaky. But
we just know who Dan Ashworth's hotlines to now, basically. Yeah. Linked up to Galway. Did you pass it in a little brown envelope to Alex Murphy on his way across the handover? Did you?
Or else he's reading the same websites I was reading back in 2019 for Football Manager content and who to sign. But yeah, no, I did look at a clips of him back at the start of the summer, but I cannot remember now. But so I can't remember seeing him play. But I did watch him clips at one stage. So but for 9 million, is it?
Yeah, apparently there's a clause on his release clause, and he's got it for €9 million.
And if you can do a job for that price, it's a no-brainer. And being 23, you can always sell him on again if it didn't work out. But so an option, I'll put him in the mix, but I'd have to see him play.
Yeah, he had a fantastic tournament. He was in the under-21 team of the tournament, and as I said, he scored 2 goals from left back for Spain as well. Fantastic attacking fullback, so it's a lot of potential as well. Obviously, 23, so he's a little bit further ahead in his development than what Lewis Hall would be, but he's been playing regular Liga football for Real Betis as well, and European football as well. So he's got some good experience for a young age as well. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on, and one that it's something that might actually come up in a conversation tomorrow night as well, which we'll discuss later on at the end of the show.
Yes, we will. And he's come through the Barca Academy, so he can't be that bad.
No, not really. Pete? That was perfect timing.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I can hear him making noise upstairs, so I thought I need to go and make sure that he's okay. Bless him. Right, moving on. I don't know what to do now because we've got another clear section that I wanted to cover.
It's interesting because I'm looking at the questions, and there's a very relevant question that's debatable about. We'll talk about Lewis Hall, and Yano has put a curveball in there, right? And just I might as well ask it now, or before you move on. Obviously, give you a chance to think what you want to do as well, Pete. He wants to know: is Lewis Hurtle, who probably cost 23 million, any better than Alex Murphy? Now, Daz, we know exactly what you're going to say here on this one. You'd rather keep the 20-30 million in the bank account and play Alex Murphy.
No, yeah, but yeah, I'd like to see Alex Murphy play. I'd like to see him given game time. But where does Eddie see him? Does he see him as a left back? Does he see him as a left or right centre back? Where does he see him playing? Or does he want to send them out on loan and get a year's football in the UK? That is the question. That's the question for Eddie. But whereas Lewis Hall will come straight in. But then, yeah, does that affect Alex Murphy in the future? Sure, it would. But we're going to need two players in every position anyway, and to have like play it on 2 years. You might be Target and Dan Burn could be gone. So yeah, but it's a very good question,
Pete?
Versatility. Can play left back, can play left centre back. For me, I believe Alex Murphy said he's happy to play anywhere, but I believe he is a left centre back by trade. Like that's his.
He can play left back as well. Yeah, but,
he can. But I genuinely think, I think you've already touched on it, Daz. With Dan Burn, getting sort of towards the end of his career, it could be a nice natural transition that, with Botman being that main left centre back, who's to say that Alex Murphy can't transition into that? And let's not forget, and I was there, I watched the game, he was outstanding. He played right centre back to Botman and played absolutely brilliantly. He was so good. So he's already showed his versatility. And I think that's the reason why he's not gone on loan yet. It's because Eddie Howe had to have been impressed with him against Fiorentina. He was brilliant. He made some really good, crucial clearances. Was calm and composed on the ball. We're in a really good position there. But like I say, we want a squad of players. We don't want just one good player in that position. We want a number. And who's to say that Alex Murphy can't be the first choice? But we want to be bringing players in that are going to be pushing those players to be first choice. So.
Yeah, and that if we bring in that a left back, let's say, because that'll move, can make Dan Burn available for a centre back position or left centre back position as cover. So that might be the trigger that would allow Alex Murphy to go on loan and get the football he probably needs. He needs regular football at the top level. Whether it be when I'd say that, I mean in the championship, for example. So and then they can monitor him there, and then comes back and maybe he has the same kind of impact in a different capacity that Elliot Anderson had, and then it becomes the mainstay in around the squad.
Definitely. Really good point, Yana. So good question asked. Now, what I do want to move on to is the main area that I was going to move on to next, because lots of talk about, are we going to sign one? Are we going to sign two players? What position it's going to be? We've covered the left back situation. Now let's cover the centre back situation, in particular the right centre back situation. So what kind of spurred this into action is that Craig Hope put an article out for the Daily Mail. They said Eddie Howe basically is looking for another player, and he didn't just list one player that he was looking at. He listed a number, and in particular, he listed centre backs. So we'll go through the names of the centre backs that were mentioned. A player that we've talked about quite a lot already, Jean-Claire Todibo of Nice. There was an interesting addition to that. He's been linked with other clubs this summer and close to signing with other clubs, but it was Edmund Tapsoba at Leverkusen. And he wasn't the only one at Leverkusen. Adilion Kosanoru is another centre-back, can play right-back position that was also talked about, a name. Perslers, shares, I'm pronouncing that
Trino.
right. Who's good friends with Sven Botman, came through Ajax together, and is currently playing at Torino. Another one, Armel Bella-Kotchap, who is currently playing in the Championship with Southampton, a player we know and Mike's talked about before, already a German international at 19, 20 years old. And last but not least, the Benfica sensation, Antonio Silva. Now, we've got those centre-backs that were mentioned. We can potentially work through them with regards to those links. Now, we'll start with John-Claire Todibo. What was really interesting about this is that we've been linked with him during this summer, not as much as other clubs, in particular Man United in the last couple of weeks have been linked with him. But what's through a spanner in the works is what everyone's talked about tonight, in that Don Machef's said the move to West Ham is now off with Harry Maguire. It's thought the departures late in the window would leave Man United little time to bring in a replacement. So it was only really kind of talked about that Todibo was going to be an option if Harry Maguire left the club. The fact that he hasn't left the club may well open up the window for Jean-Claire Todibo. Now, I won't spend too long on Todibo because we've already talked about him before, but is he a player that you would like at Newcastle United as a right centre-back, based on what we kind of know already? Go on, Daz, I'll start with you.
No, I was just going to say, you're not adding Maguire onto your list there now that he's not going to West Ham.
Definitely not.
Confidence. Do you know what? Regards the Maguire battle, just to touch on that, I still see him going. And I think what they've decided to do is, obviously, we know that Martinez went down an injury last night, so obviously they've held on for him a little bit. So that could be one reason why they've pulled the strings back on that one. But the thing is, though, if you actually sell a player, other teams know you then have money to spend. If you say that someone's not for sale or it fell through, there might not be the need to buy a player. So if Man United, for all we know, could be still looking for a centre-half, but they will not sell him. As they said, they didn't have time to replace him. Of course, there's still time to replace him. There's still another 2 weeks to replace him. If you've done your homework on a centre-back, you can still get them through in 2 weeks easily. You can do a deal within 24 hours if you need to. You've done the research and the due diligence stuff beforehand. So there's still plenty of time. So I can still see that going through, but I think it could be later on in the window. It could be something that happens, the last week of the window for me. Regards to Todibo, obviously, he's a good footballer. He's one of the better ones of the centre backs that you mentioned, in my opinion. He's probably not the one I would have as top of my list on that one. There's a couple who I think, for me, I just think there's one that's better already out of that list that's been mentioned. But there's also someone that we've briefly touched on before in previous weeks who I think's got that word we've talked about quite a lot tonight already, potential. And that one might get discussed a bit more in depth for tomorrow, so I'll keep that one for tomorrow night. But on Todibo, I think he did all right when he was at the Cellar Cup as well. Obviously, I know it's at the most competitive level, because obviously it's a pre-season venue, but it does give people a chance to have a look at him. I think the odd thing for me is there's that odd little mistake in him, and I think from seeing him at Nice, he's had that before. That's my only concern on Todibo. And for a tall lad, he's not the best in the air. I think would be my concerns on Todibo. But he's out of the ones mentioned, he's higher on the list than a few of the other ones.
Daz, what are your thoughts on Jean-Claire Todibo?
I want to say I have a favourite from that list, and I've only have that favourite from today from looking at a few more videos. But we did a whole show about him. I did one of the shorts on him, and I wouldn't be disappointed to see him rocking up in Newcastle. I think he could do a job if the price is right. And then look at there's a few clubs looking at him, so he can't be all bad. I know as Richie's saying, I've heard that before as well, that his potential mistake in him, but I think he's a quality player. He's actually probably number 2 or 3 on my list.
Okay. Moving on to an interesting one. This is what I'm really interested in, actually, because I didn't expect us to be linked with him, and it's Edmund Tapsoba. Now, he looked like he was odds on to go to Tottenham in the summer. They were very, very close to signing him. They've gone then to Wolfsburg and got Van der Ven, who is an equally very, very good centre-back. And I'm sure he would do a good job with them as well. But Edmund Tapsoba, really, really good centre-back, good player. Don't know how much you boys know about him, whether you've watched him, what you think he could bring to Newcastle. But that was a really, really interesting link for me because I didn't think he would be a player that would be linked with Newcastle this summer. But Rich,
to be fair, he was. To be fair, Pete, he was linked a lot last summer, and it makes you think because obviously we did a lot of research, shall we say, on Leverkusen players because they've got a decent squad really when you think about it. Yeah. Obviously, we did a lot of scouting on Moussa Diaby, and then obviously we were linked with the guy who was a left back who plays about there, Hinchapi as well, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And then obviously you've got Tapsoba, Florian Wirtz as well was someone that's been linked as well. There's a good selection of fantastic young players there. He has a decent relationship with Jonathan Tah, who's the other centre back at Leverkusen. And to be fair, I really like him. He just doesn't fit the mould that we're looking for in a centre half. He's a little bit older as well. I'm not too sure. I think for me, I thought Tapso tended to play on the left more than the right. So perhaps I could be wrong. People can clarify if I remember for a few games I saw it was Tar that played on the right and Tapso played on the left. So perhaps it's maybe one of those where you can play both. So if that's the case, obviously, but I know that there was a lot of talk about him last year, and there was a lot of people saying keep an eye on this transfer. Obviously, nothing happened this year. Perhaps it's one where the deal Newcastle just didn't feel that the deal was right for them last year, especially with bringing Botman in as well. And it's not always good to have two new centre backs coming in and playing at the same season, at the same time. So Sven Botman's got a year in the Premier League ahead in him now. He's got that experience. Obviously, Shah's been fantastic, and whoever comes in is probably going to be Shah's understudy for a little bit as well. So Tapsoba, he's a fantastic player. He's probably my number 2 on the list that you mentioned there, Pete. I'd put him ahead of Todibo for the ones we've discussed so far.
Okay, I won't spend too long on Adilan Kosonono. And the reason being is because he's probably the least experienced at the highest level of them all, but he has tremendous potential. I think that the others are probably a higher ceiling, probably certainly a slight level up on him at the moment. But it was interesting that he was linked, obviously, from Leverkusen as well. And it will definitely be one to keep an eye on as we move forward. But I'm going to move on to Per Schurz from Torino. Now, he was linked with us early on in the summer, linked because he was a friend of Botman, but also he is a really, really good centre-back and has played really well there for Torino. Again, versatile, can play in one or two different positions. But again, is that a player that you think we are likely to sign, or is this kind of just another one stacked on the heap of a number of players that we're looking at, lads?
Yeah, I don't know an awful lot about him. His value seems to have, from looking at websites here, his value seems to have increased in the last little while as well, gone up considerably. I think people are probably putting 2 and 2 together and saying, look, he played with Botman before, maybe he's one that's slot in there. But to tell you the truth, I don't know. I don't know where the links are coming from with this guy.
Yeah, Richie, anything on Per Schurz?
I haven't. To be fair, I haven't watched him enough to give a, what my thoughts would be on it. It would be pretty much, I'd probably do a better job than what Dennis Wise was just by making something up. But no, I don't want to make a comment on it because I don't know enough about him. But I don't think it's always good just because someone's played with someone before. That means that there's a relationship there, because at the end of the day, the way he's Newcastle, they obviously Botman went to Lille. He's went to Torino, and Botman's now coming to Newcastle. You're playing different sorts of football and at different levels, so it doesn't necessarily mean that you could do it in the Premier League. You might be able to do it at under 21 levels or at the Ajax Academy or something like that. But to then be able to carry on that potential partnership at Premier League level is different. And I don't know that much about the comment whether it would be a success in the Premier League at this moment in time, Pete.
Okay. Amel Bella-Kotchap, we've played against him a couple of times with regards to Southampton. 20 years old, already got into the German national team. Lots and lots of potential there. 21 million release clause that's come out in the last few days, which I think is quite interesting. Can play on that right-hand side of defence, big, strong centre-back. Is he an option for you boys, particularly now it's been talked about that his valuation is 21 million with regards to its release clause? What do you think about Amel Bella-Kotchap?
I think he's probably one of those ones where you could, because obviously now you know how much he is because he's got that release clause. It's a bit like how we talked about with Juan Miranda before. You know, if you can't get your first choice target, you've got a really good fallback that you can go to, and you know that a deal can be done. You don't have to negotiate with the club. I think anything with a good thing with the deal with a clause, it's a deal that can be done quickly because the selling club can't do anything about it because the clause is there for a reason. Once that the Newcastle say, right, we'll meet that clause, that's it. Technically, as long as they can persuade the player to join, which I don't think it would take any persuading to move from Southampton to Newcastle, it's a done deal realistically. You know what I mean? He's a German international as well, so he's a fantastic player. I still think Newcastle missed out a march a little bit on Mohamed Salisu. I think he was someone that we all liked, and obviously he's went off to Monaco now, and he went off as like 15 million, which was an absolute steal, really. Do you know what I mean? He was fantastic. But Bella-Kotchap was a fantastic partner as well. But I think it's one that Newcastle could turn to if they don't get the first choice target, as I said, because it's a deal that could be done really quickly if needs be.
Was he playing when we were over the game?
I don't know if I can find out for you, mate. If you give us 2 ticks.
I don't know if we did.
I don't think he did either. To be fair,
I think he was injured. But Ollie Hawkins put a little piece out with regards to the fact that Ashworth had identified Bella-Kotchap and about the clause being 21 million. But a few in the chat have also mentioned, and Ollie Hawkins mentioned as well, that Borussia Dortmund are also looking at Bella-Kotchap for the same reason. Now, we know what Borussia Dortmund are like, signing good young players, and they're clearly sniffing around him. It's a great price, to be fair. Great price, great age. You know, it worked perfect.
Just to clear what you said. Yes, he did play the game that we saw it when we were all over for the loaded weekend. But he played left centre back because his partner was Jan Bednarak, and if you know what Jan Bednarak's like, he's not the most versatile of centre halves, very old school, and he can literally only play on the right hand side of a defence. So perhaps he took one for the team and played left centre back. I don't know. Obviously, Mohamed Salisu was pretty much on strike for the second half of the Southampton season.
I knew one of them would play. That was it.
It was Salisu. He pretty much didn't play the whole second half of the season. So Bella-Kotchap, he played at the left hand side, which isn't really his strong point. He's more of a right centre half. So, but to be fair, when you've got Jan Bednarak as your centre back partnership, you don't hold out for much, lads, really, do you?
I'm sure Dortmund would be an attractive option to him as well, and then he's in the eyes of the German national coach as well, by playing in Germany week in and week out. So, but yeah, I don't know. I can't see that one happening though.
No, I think that's if all else fails, I would say. And last but not least, we have Antonio Silva, arguably one of the best young centre-backs in world football right now. Absolutely, I think he's exceeded expectations at Benfica. I don't think they expected him to be as good as what he is. And this is the most intriguing of the lot. Speaking to Joyce South Boys when this link was put out, Emeka again, who watches a lot of European football like myself and many others, first thing he said was too expensive. Can't afford him, too expensive. Now, what's really interesting about this is that there have been some reports that Antonio Silva will be sold at some point this summer. Now, that brings in a very interesting situation. And the one thing I'll throw out to you boys is that Goncalo Ramos has gone to PSG with a loan and an obligation to buy. So who's to say that if they're going to sell him, it won't be the same? But look, I know we'll touch on this tomorrow, but just very briefly touch on Antonio Silva as a player that was linked in this group of players, and let us know your thoughts on the other side of things with regards to, is he definitely going to go this summer from what Portuguese press have said and various others? Just want to know your thoughts in general.
Yeah, just on Antonio Silva, looking at a video of him, he looks class. He's very good at getting in those last ditch tackles, as well, and he's strong in the tackle. He might be a bit of fear that he might give away a penalty or two if he is delayed in those tackles, but he looks decent, looks very, very strong. Yeah, what kind of price would we be looking at? Like I see here, he's down as 45 million euro. He's contracted up to June 2027, so they don't have to sell, I guess. And you're saying it was Goncalo Ramos went for loan to buy to PSG. Yeah,
that was the surprising thing about it. That was the link that was there continuously a few weeks ago.
Wow, because PSG could pay the money, so up front. So especially with all the sales they've done. I'd love to see this guy rocking up. I think he could do a job with Botman. 19 years old, so yeah, big, strong centre half.
Richie,
for me, I think he's the fantastic. I think you can still say prospect because obviously it's the Portuguese league. That's the one thing you can say about. Yes, they're very good technically as well, but obviously there's a step up between, playing that league to playing Premier League. You look at how many Portuguese players have done it. Look at Wolves, for example. There's quite a lot of Portuguese players in that team, and there's a lot of them haven't taken to the Premier League at all. You could look at obviously Neves. You've got Bruno Fernandes. You've got Ruben Diaz, and there's been a lot of talk as obviously the next in line to be, the next Ruben Diaz type thing, and he came along with a lot of hype when he went to Man City. And to be fair, he lived up to it. He was Player of the Year the first season he came over, I think it was, for Man City. He was really, really good for them. If he's anywhere near the standard, and bear in mind, as I said, he's only 19. He's not as tall as some of the centre halves that we're looking at, but he's really good with his feet as well. And his dad said he's fantastic, making a tackle late on if needs be. Yeah. Yes, he is right in regards to the fact that he could be a liability penalty-wise, but the one thing I will say on him, he's got a fantastic leader on the right-hand side of him. He will be able to keep him right and keep him on the straight and narrow and stuff like that. So that's something that's really, really good understanding that can develop on that side there to really, really help him out. So for the list of all the players that we've mentioned there, he's the one that will be the one for me. But as it's this price, we don't know what the price is. Everyone's saying, you'll not be able to afford him. You'll not be able to afford him. But this is obviously, we know it's a seller's market at the minute. And sometimes when you're going from Portugal, that don't have to pay much for players coming in there. You look at Sporting Lisbon when they went and signed, was it Gyökeres from Coventry? I think it was 15 million. He's hit the ground running. But 15 million was Sporting Lisbon's transfer record. So it goes to show they don't spend a lot of money. They do a lot more development of young talent. So this is what this is where they keep their recruitment going over. It's if Ramos hasn't gone out on loan, they would need a fee, but it's how much that fee is going to be, and that's the issue with the Antonio Silva one. If the rumours are that they are going to sell him, I think Newcastle have got to be on their toes. That even if someone puts a bid in, and it's a bid, as Dan Ashworth and they've said on numerous times, if the deal is right for Newcastle, they will pull the trigger. This is one of the ones where I think it's if they can get a deal done for him, fantastic, go for it, because this kid's got a high ceiling and he's already at a high level anyway, because he's played Champions League football and European football with Benfica. So this is the type of player you want to bring in, and he's 19. How many times do we have to keep saying this on the show now? Great age. This is what we're buying, what we're doing now. It's a fantastic recruitment strategy that Newcastle have got, and you can see this is why. I think you're putting out a minimum outlay really, but what we've put out so far isn't drastic. It's nowhere near what Chelsea have put out, nowhere near what Everton's put out, what Liverpool have put out, or what even Man United have probably put out over recent years. But we've got a fantastic squad now, and this is where he would fit into it. I think the other person that we'll talk about tomorrow is very similar to him, but a lot of people haven't heard of him. We've touched on the name a few times, but it's someone that we'll talk about more in depth tomorrow.
No, I think Antonio Silva will be the additional signing if we get him. I think Newcastle want a left back as priority, but I think the fact that there's a potential with a loan to buy will be something that they will try and push through. If you can get someone of Antonio Silva's quality on a loan to buy, you don't miss that opportunity. It's as simple as that. I think the future fee will be dependent, because let's not forget, we don't want to be eating too much into our summer window this summer, for next summer, 2024. And it's all right getting loans to buy for next season, but then you're eating into the fee because you're having to pay the money next summer, which then, if we don't have as good a season, or if we do have as good a season, you've then got money already committed elsewhere. So I think that will be a big conversation as to what we go and do.
I think the one good thing about next year is, obviously, one of the reasons why Newcastle, as I said, they're trying to be creative, is you've got to remember next year, obviously, you'll have whatever Premier League money comes available, whatever we've accrued off the Champions League and European campaign this year, and we'll have a new kit provider next year as well, which is going to bring a big, commercial aspect to the club and bring in extra, funds that is going to help us develop on. So, as I said, I don't think unless we have some major injuries, I don't think we'll be very active in January. I think it'll be very, very quiet unless there's emergencies needed. But I think from now going forward, it's going to be summer windows that Newcastle are going to be more and more active.
Just want to bring something. So there's an awful lot of activity in the chat on about zebras, but you're not getting a zebra unless hit that like button. You never know what might happen in the future.
Do you know what? That should be a good incentive. What we should do once, if we hit the like target whilst we're on the show, we'll play the zebra at the end. That's what, something like that. If we get the likes that one, what do you mean?
If you eat your dinner, you'll get a treat.
Yes, exactly. You eat your dinner, you'll get a treat.
Peter would love that.
I was gonna say something else actually, in a positive light, but you guys have touched on it already, so we'll leave it there. And I might bring it up at the end. But yeah, I think it's gonna be really interesting to see how it works out. I do think that they will explore a centre back signing. I think he will definitely be up there in terms of top 2, top 3 that we explore, because of the potential that Benfica are kind of giving out, that there is a potential of a loan to buy option there. But lots and lots of factors that will affect that. But he is, without doubt, the one of the standout targets that we've been looking at from a centre back perspective this summer. And it would be, I think that would really make a lot of the big teams stand up and take notice if we were to go and purchase him and get him on a loan to buy, because it would show that we're not messing around and we can sign the best young players that are out there, and he will be that. There's no doubt about it. Right, a couple of other things with regards to transfer-related stuff. Fraser off. Scott Wilson also reports that Fraser, and Daz is very happy about this. Do it again, Daz.
Yes.
That Fraser could well be ending his association with Newcastle United and going to join Brendan Rodgers at Celtic. Apparently, Brendan Rodgers is a fan of his and could well be a deal that's done with the Scotland international going to Celtic. Boys, good deal. And what kind of fee would you expect for Ryan Fraser? Would it be more of a Carl Darlow? I think has he got 2 years left on his deal? I think he might have 2 years still left on his deal. So what type of fee would you be commanding for him if he does eventually go to Celtic?
It's a hard one to say that, really.
Yeah.
Because
what's acceptable for you? What's acceptable for you?
Anthony is a bonus, just to get him off, because you don't need that kind of negative energy in the camp. Just to get his wages off the books, because he came in and out free. I'm sure he's on decent wages then for that, and in the same fashion as Jeff Hendrick. But just to free up the wages, and Anthony is a bonus. Anthony can be put back into the pot for FFP. Celtic should be able to afford something as well. But I don't know a figure. It'll be very low. Actually, I'll bring up what we said in squad game. That's when our at the end of the season we made a call then on the price. So, sorry, Richie, you answer, and I'll get the squad game figure.
I was going to say exactly what you said. To be fair, Daz, anything we sell him for is as a profit, because obviously he came in as a free. And his wages were pretty high. Do you know what I mean? The only issue you've got regards Fraser is the fact he down tools at Bournemouth, and apparently he was, when Howe came in, obviously you knew something was going to happen on that, and it was all polite to start with, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden, the Eddie Howe became ruthless and went, "No, Howe lad, you know the crack. I know what you did to me. You can get in the frigging reserves, can't you?" So.
I'm sure you give him a chance, though.
Well, you'd like to think you'd give him a chance, but obviously, at the end of the day, I still get the feel that Eddie Howe's not someone you mess with behind closed doors. For me, he's just got that aura about him. He's if you're part of the team and you play for the team and you take on everything, I think he'll be your best mate type thing, and he'll get, if something was to happen adversely on the pitch or off the pitch, he'd back your corner to the hill. If you're one of the team and such stuff, he'll be there. But if you cross him, you're done and dusted, I think. And I think that's what the thing is with Fraser. He didn't have much of a choice when he first came in. He had to deal with him. But by the end of that season, last season he had now to do pretty much with the first team squad and was told he could move on. Didn't, he basically down tools himself, didn't even play in reserves for the whole last season. But apparently he's got 2 years left on his contract, and he's rumoured to be his transfer value is $5 million. If you give me $5 million for me, I'd snap it up. I'm telling you that now. $5 million. If you go on FFP, right, $5 million, you can that pays someone's first year of FFP who could be 10 times the player Fraser is. So
yeah.
In squad game, we said we'd accept $5 million for him. We stick their hand off with $5 million. Pete, what would you expect from him?
I think I would love $5 million for him, but I just don't see it. Someone just put in the chat, and it's a really valid point about his wages. I think they said he's on sort of like 40 grand a week. Like, if that's the case, there's even a team like Celtic aren't going to kind of readily pay that sort of money. But I just think for me, I kind of take anything. If we were to get anything over $1 million, like 1 to 2.5 million, I take it. I think we just need to get these players off the book. We've had so many players that have outstayed their welcome at Newcastle over the years. The Henry Sarves, for example, the Gouffrons. Gouffron had a good last season for us in the Championship, but we were trying to offload him for a long while. and there was Marvo, and various others that you can kind of talk about, all trying to get them off the books, all kind of happy to sit on their contracts and not do anything. We can't keep doing that, especially when they're on 40, 50 grand a week. We just need them gone. So yeah,
that's why we have to be very careful of who we bring in. And that's why if we're a bit on the fence of a player to bring in, we just don't bring him in, because we don't want to be going down that scenario again.
No, you're right. And to be fair, Kev T says we did get one or free. You're absolutely right. So even if we did get 1 or 2 million, we've got more in than we actually paid for him. Although we probably gave him a hefty signing on bonus, that's for sure. Yeah. Separate conversation. Really quick answer to this. Obviously, Olise's clause has been activated by Chelsea. Is that a player we should have targeted this summer? Mikel Olise. Rich, yes or no?
I've said it before. He was the one player at Palace I really, really rate. I just on his day, I think he's exceptional. It's in the interesting topic of conversation. There's a lot of people say his end product's not great, but for me, I'll be always turning around and saying, you look at the supporting cast around them. They haven't really got an out-and-out striker who can put the ball in the back of the net. So that's always, like we said that about Maxi. The amount of times he was always high up on the list for creating chances, but there was nobody finishing them off. So I think that's a very, very similar sort of product. But I think the ceiling on this guy is really high, and it's 35 million. And bear in mind, I still believe that the right wing department is somewhere we still need to strengthen. At that price, I don't know what. To be fair, it could be we might have been interested in him, but have been put off by the fact he had that really bad injury in the European and the 21 championships when he was a really bad hamstring pull. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes in the medical by him, because obviously he won't be playing for a while. So yeah, I do believe it's one that we should have been interested in. And to be fair, as I said, we could have been apart from the injury. So we'll never know.
That's yes or no, in your opinion?
Look, to be honest, he's I've seen him play before. He never jumped off the page for me. I know you've been watching him for England as well, but look, with Chelsea and Man City in for him this summer, we weren't going to be at the races anyway. I don't think, unless he was really sold on the project and working with Eddie Howe. But so. Yeah, it doesn't really bother me so much, especially with him being injured as well. I think I agree with Richie. We do need to strengthen, have another option on the right wing as well. If we ideally, that'll be our third signing we'd make, but I can't see. It's one, maybe two, definitely not three left. But it's something that we look at maybe in January, but I think definitely in the summer we look at the right wing.
Yeah. Watched Olise for a couple of years now. Got the pleasure to watch him just after the takeover when we went to Selhurst Park. He's a quality player. There's no doubt about it. And actually, since I first watched him before the takeover, he has moved on a lot and developed his game hugely. People say about you mentioned, Richie, about his final product. He got 11 assists last season.
And people are having a go at his end product.
His end product, there was nothing wrong with his end product. His end product is absolutely spot on. It's just that
he plays for France. Sorry about that.
Yeah. He plays for France, but he is well thought of in France in terms of the future and what they're going to develop. And what's really interesting is actually he's going to a team in Chelsea potentially that I think they've got 8 or 9 French players that they've signed. So they've got a massive French contingent now there, which is probably a big reason why he's so keen to go and play for them. But I think he's going to be a big signing for them. He's a player that we probably could have looked at, but I genuinely think that the right winger that we sign next summer will be a level above him. I think we could probably go big with that right winger and make it a really, really big signing. He's going to be a great player. There's no doubt about it, but I think we're looking to go to the next level, which is probably why he wasn't part of that conversation. 35 million, I think that's a decent price. I'm not going to lie. Right, I don't want to spend too much longer on conversations. But any questions that kind of stick out to us before we start to wrap up, lads?
Let's have a look. We'll go through the list here. Stephen, looking something we touched on before when we mentioned about being creative. He says, what if Newcastle already have sponsors sorted out, but are keeping quiet and have told the Prem that they obviously want to keep quiet or break confidentiality clause? It's a possibility. If you look at Sunday, for example, Chelsea didn't have a shirt sponsor. However, there was a few, if anyone's seen any of the pictures online from when they've done the Premier League pictures on like the player things for Sky and BT or whatever like that, they actually had the shirt sponsor on it. So they just haven't announced it yet. So obviously they've got a shirt sponsor line. They haven't announced the deal yet. So this is how they're possibly getting around the FFP. So they know there's money coming in for the shirt sponsor. They're able to spend that money, sort of thing. So it covers it a little bit, obviously, with the outgoings. So this is the thing, as we mentioned before, about Newcastle getting creative. We could have sponsors lined up somewhere. We might have someone who's already putting a name on the training ground for what we know. Or as someone said, a training kit could have a sponsor coming up soon that we don't know about yet. We'll have to wait and see. But yes, I think that falls in the category of being creative. Daz, were you going to say something there? Sorry.
No.
All right. This is the one we discussed this briefly last week as well, and it comes up about it's gone back to Callum Wilson. Pete, and I'll come with you on this one because obviously we touched on it a little bit last week about when Harry Kane was getting sold last week. What if, because obviously Spurs are going to need, realistically, a striker, and we know that market at the moment there isn't anybody out there who's an out-and-out striker. He says, would you accept a 40 million bid for Callum Wilson to replace Kane off Spurs?
Spurs can get to fuck, as far as I'm concerned. If they want him, they pay 70 million. And I'm not even joking. Like, of course, it's not realistic. Of course, it's not realistic for Callum Wilson, of me saying 70 million. But am I really going to give them an easy ride? Spurs, who tried to stop the takeover, that have been nothing but disrespectful. In particular, Daniel Levy to Newcastle United over the years when we were struggling. Think I'm going to give him our striker that scored 18 goals last season? Not a chance. And if they are, they're going to have to pay big money for him. I don't care how old he is. Don't care how many goals he scored. Don't care about anything else. No. You have to pay way over the valuation if you're going to get one of our players. Because I tell you what, if we wanted one of theirs, they'd refuse. So, or they'd make us pay extortionate amounts. So why not do the same? Hey, for me, we are overtaking Spurs. We're on the way to overtaking them if we haven't already. I am not worried about them whatsoever, and they need to pay us more money than we need to pay them for. Let's face it, there are more players that they would want from our team that we would want from theirs.
Yeah, that's 100% agree. Dad, I'll come to you with this question. And the reason I'm coming to you with this question is because you can't say the person that's in the question. Okay? Stu Amos, he wants to know if we could only sign one more player, what position and who would the player want to be? And realistically, so no KK, Daz.
No comment, Richie. No comment.
So you're not even going to come up with an alternative then?
Okay. For anyone listening on Spotify, I put up the picture of KK. What position? Yeah, that right wing. If we've got the left back and the right centre back covered, right wing, and I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to. I don't think it's going to happen this summer. So there's no point even talking about names now because they'll be different in January. They'll be different in the summer. But I'm not allowed to say KK. So. No one.
Interesting one here. It's more of a comment rather than a question, and it's just literally following up from the under-21 saying it's the result on Sunday is showing that the recruitment is bearing fruit already off from David Toffee. Obviously, if they're not familiar, obviously Newcastle beat Southampton under-21s at the weekend, went behind, came back and won. I think it was 5-3. I think the score was. Bear in mind, Southampton are renowned for their academy as well and bringing fantastic players through their academy. So he's right there. It's showing that the recruitment that they're bringing into the academy already is bearing fruits. Not really a question about what's tonight, but Ian CR65, Pete wants to know, is Billy on the Race for Europe show tonight?
He will be.
I think you'll have fun with Billy tonight.
That's all I'm going to say.
Right, I'll get you the question here for you, Pete. Saint Coral, he's obviously going back to the left back question, and I believe it's the lad is Luke Thomas. That's the lad from Leicester, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, he's saying a left back playing in England in 21. Going, what your thoughts on him? Obviously, I'll come to you because obviously Leicester, you'll know a lot of people who know him and stuff like that. So,
not for me. Not for me. I'm young left back, young player. Get it. All the rest of it. Not for me. Not a player that I would want. I don't think he's at the level that we're looking at. Really struggled last season. Really struggled. Almiron at the King Power destroyed him. Absolutely destroyed him on that left-hand side. And he's not the only one this season that's actually had their way with Luke Thomas, to the point where Brendan Rodgers took him out of the team for a period of time because he was getting rinsed left, right, and centre. For me, he doesn't have something that stands out that makes him like a player that you go, wow, like, there's something there. He doesn't have that standout ability for me. So, no, I wouldn't take him.
Okay. Daz, I'll come to you on this one. I've got one more I really want to talk about to round off the show. Daz, Michael Pormas says, would you sell Manquillo, Kraft and Target for a combined 10 million to help fans are left? But me personally, quickly, I think we'd still be able to get more than 10 million for those three put together.
Yeah, that'd be low ball offer.
I think you get 10 million for Target alone.
Yeah, you get at least 8 million, 10 towards 10. Kraft, you should get something as well. Eddie is a big fan of Kraft. You heard what he said there about him as well. He's as well as on the pitch, off the pitch as well. He's a big fan. Manquillo, he's probably on his way back to Spain soon enough. So you're going to get something small for him. You get 15, I think, for that close to 15, and then do put it towards the left back then, and that's not a bad move if you had buyers.
Pete, I want to come to you on this one because obviously I know you watched the Serie A and stuff like that, and obviously the Bundesliga as well. Senks also here about we'll talk about young centre backs. There's one at Bayern Munich. I think we all know who Matthias de Ligt is. 23, and he's sitting on the bench at Bayern Munich. He reckons he'd be worth around 60 million, which I could probably believe. Do you think that's a realistic target? I know for me, the one concern I'd have, obviously, did fantastic at Ajax. Went over to Juventus. He's did all right. He's then gone to Bayern Munich and done all right. Would that be a concern for you that he hasn't really set a market down at two of the big clubs in their leagues, and he's been moved on relatively quickly rather than building around, because he was seen as one of the best potential centre backs in Europe. You talk about 3-4 years ago.
I think it is a concern. I watched him at Juventus, and he really wasn't great. He really wasn't great. There was a complete level drop from when he went to Juventus from Ajax. At Ajax, he was a monster. He was an absolute monster, particularly that season before he left. He was so good, and he had the world at his feet. But the one thing I'll say in his defence is that he's gone to two teams that have kind of been in transition, and that's never good for a player that's trying to establish themselves in their team. Upamecano is another one who's gone there and really not done very well at all. So I'll throw that in as a kind of something to kind of show support to him as a bit of an understanding. But would I take him? I think him and Botman would form a fantastic partnership.
I do as well.
Not only for Newcastle, but for Holland as well. I think that could well be the future partnership moving forward.
It could be when Van Dijk moves on and stuff like that. And
Van Dijk's not playing great for Liverpool or Holland at the moment. And yes, he's got experience, but there's an argument that at some points that maybe, if he's injured or whatever, you want to experiment. There's an argument that those two, for me, Botman should be starting for Holland, and I'd be shocked if we get to the end of next season and he's not got a cap, let alone started for Holland in that period. But De Ligt, yeah, be an interesting signing. It really would, because I think Eddie Howe would get him working. Again, pace is a concern for me.
And cost.
The only thing I don't think the cost is a concern. I genuinely don't think it's a concern. I'm not talking about this summer, by the way, but next summer, I don't think the cost would be concerned, because I think it would drop again if he doesn't have a good season. And I think we could get him for a decent price, anywhere around 50 million for De Ligt. At 23, 24 years old is a great deal. But yeah, it's an interesting one. One to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I thought it was a good question to end up on. And there is another name that's been mentioned in the chat, but obviously, as we mentioned, we're going to round off the show for right now. Obviously, it's been a fantastic show, and there's been umpteen questions coming, and I've still got loads I could potentially go through.
We'll leave you here to go through the chat, Richie.
I know understand. It's been a fact. This is what we love about our loaded ultras. The content that they put on there. That for obviously we try and put some content out there for you anyway. But you're part of these, the shows that we put on. This is why we always have a question answer at the end, because some of the content that you bring that we don't think about is fantastic as well. And that's why you're a huge part of this channel as well. It isn't just about the four of us. It's about all of us, sort of thing. So bear in mind, obviously, if there's anything that we haven't mentioned tonight, but we'll fit into the topic of conversation for tomorrow, just leave a question in tomorrow and we'll make sure we can get it around. Right, lads, I think that's a good point to do housekeeping.
Yeah. You're the reasons, guys, why these shows last 2 hours and not a lot less. Because we have no intentions of staying on this long, but the questions and the comments are the reason why.
And while we've got this amount, we've got 356 still watching nearly 2 hours later. It's just to listen to 3 Newcastle loving Geordie bloody dads. Do you know what I mean? Christ's sake, you know what I mean? It's bizarre, but you do it.
Have you no homes to go to? Go home. Right. Let's give it a shot. Let's tell people what's happening for even tomorrow. We've got one coming tomorrow. Richie, talk us through this one.
Yeah, it's going to be slightly different to what we discussed briefly, because obviously we've had Antonio Mango on the show before, and he's had fantastic response to every single come on. And if anyone follows him on Twitter, he knows his kids, right? He specializes in under 23. I know that comment might have come out. I'm just looking at Daz and Pete's face when I said that. And it was the way that Daz.
Don't blame me. Don't blame me.
All little smirks on your face there. No, seriously, he knows all the up and coming stars that are coming through. And what we're going to try and do in the show tomorrow is talk about some of the ones that are being linked to the academy, but also some of the wonder kids that are being linked to Newcastle in the first team. Because yes, we've touched on people like Lewis Hall tonight, who would technically he could fall into the category of being under 23 academy project, but he wouldn't. He would be in the first team. There's just so many people, because as we've discussed several times tonight, all these players that we're getting linked with now are a great age. And there's some of them are like so young, and then there's some fantastic ones. Someone that's obviously
it's a great age,
had a big day today, and another Irish lad coming in who will be mentioned tonight.
I was waiting for Richie to go off. Carry on, Richie.
You did it again, didn't you? You've got there's the new lad supposedly joined today from Ireland, which will please Daz and Cathal Heffernan, who's joined, obviously being at AC Milan last year. And there's another rumour of another fantastic lad coming over from Inter who's Irish as well. And we're going to get the nitty gritty about this tomorrow, because obviously, he knows all these under 23 kids. And if you ever see all these Mango Scout reports online, he knows them in great depth. And this is just like the ones in the UK and Europe would be pretty much going to talk. He knows all these Brazilian ones, these are the South American ones as well. He knows these stuff, and we just thought it would be a fantastic show to bring him on and talk about all this evolution and revolution that Newcastle are going through at the minute with the recruitment of young, fantastic talent on that one. So that's pretty much what the show is going to be out tomorrow night.
Thank you, Richie. Nice one. Just add in allegedly after that as well, just for legal reasons. Right, Pete, talk us through what's happening Thursday and an early title decider.
It is. It could well be. But look, away days is back. Massive game. The amount of fans that are not Man City or Newcastle supporters that are talking about how big this game is and how excited they are about this game. It's a monster early fixture, that's for sure. And we've got it's LB. You might see LB on the Race for Europe show tonight. Brilliant guy, knows his stuff. And is part of City Extra, who's a massive Twitter account as well. So get involved in that. He's coming with confidence. He's a confident guy, and he knows his stuff as well. So it'll be a really good chat. Someone new to the channel, so really looking forward to it.
Always good to get a new face on as well and get different.
I think, do you know what? We didn't even touch on today the news about Kevin De Bruyne being out for 4 months. That's huge. Saturday, mate. It's absolutely huge.
We've got it all planned.
We have.
We're going to throw it out there and see where it lands with LB and get his opinions as well.
I'm sure they'll be talking about Brazilian rocking up at City as well in Lucas McKenna, but that's all the way it is Thursday. And then the game is on Saturday night. On Sunday, we'll be back with the loaded reaction. So yes, join us for that one as we look back on the game, and hopefully we're celebrating another victory. We'll definitely be celebrating a draw as well. Yeah, so join us for that one on Sunday evening, 7:30, I think it's currently at. So yeah, for you to keep an eye out on. For just a shout out as well then to our sponsors. Shout out to H2O Bathroom Design Co., the Northeast's largest supplier of Velcro and Botch bathroomware. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. Get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate, Gateshead. And you all know already the fabulous showrooms that they have and bathrooms on display there. So check that out. Also a shout out to the radiatorshed.com and Russ, and I see Russ is doing great business there. People are coming back, comments on his website. Go to the website, check out the latest from Russ, and also the install works as well, where you can get your everything kitted out. Mention loaded, you'll pick up a discount as well. So talk to Russ on that one. Here are some of the radiators. But yeah, that's just a quick shout out to our sponsors. That's it, I think. Anything else you want to say, Pete?
No, great show, great conversation, great chat, great ages, great transfer window. We'll be back for more.
Certainly will.
How'd you like that? Good luck, good night. Go home.
Drink it.